Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leon Weinstein, and today we continue with the part 4 of the 5-part series called Useful Idiots. On May 10, 1983, KGB received an offer from one of the world leaders that could crown all their achievements in promoting socialist ideology on the West. At this point, KGB had a lot to be proud of, as a matter of fact. Impressive success in organizing an anti-American movement in Western Europe and in the United States itself. Western journalists, cultural icons, politicians, university professors, students, scores of other willing helpers demanded from the US government to stop provoking peaceful USSR. Under Soviet gentle urge, they demanded that the US Congress and the President would halt any actions that could bring the world to the brink of a nuclear catastrophe. KGB was also successful in planting their own people into multiple anti-militaristic organizations and turning them into, I would say, mouthpieces of the international politics of the Soviet Union. Many were made into agents of influence on behalf of the Communist Party without ever realizing that. They genuinely believed that it was Ronald Reagan, not the USSR, conducting aggressive imperialist policy and is a terrible danger to the humanity. Actually, the USSR has already placed the same in Eastern Europe, exactly the same nuclear medium-range missiles that they were trying to stop Americans from placing in Western Europe, as a countermeasure to the USSR actions. When in 1991, some of the Soviet archives were, for a short period of time, opened by Boris Yeltsin, Tim Sebastian, a reporter for the London Times, came across an arresting memorandum. Composed in 1983 by Viktor Chebrikov, the top man at the KGB, the memorandum was addressed to Yuri Andropov, the chairman of the Communist Party of the USSR. The subject was Senator Edward Kennedy. And the fascinating part starts right now. On May 9 and 10, the memorandum explained of this year, Senator Edward Kennedy's close friend and trusted confidant, John Tooney, was in Moscow. Kennedy charged Tooney with the following message personally to General Secretary Andropov, or General Secretary of the Communist Party of the USSR, obviously. Kennedy's message was simple. He proposed an unabashed quid pro quo. Kennedy would lend Andropov a hand in dealing with President Reagan. In return, the Soviet leader would lend the Democratic Party of the United States a hand in challenging Reagan in 1984 presidential election. Kennedy made Andropov a couple of very specific offers. First, he offered to visit Moscow. The main purpose of his visit, according to the senator, would be to arm Soviet officials with explanations regarding problems of nuclear disarmament so they may be better prepared and more convincing during appearances in the US. Kennedy would help the Soviets deal with Reagan by telling them how to brush up their propaganda. Then he offered to make it possible for Andropov to sit down for a few interviews on American television. Kennedy and his friends will make sure that representatives of the largest television companies in the US would contact you, Andropov, for an invitation to Moscow for an interview. The senator underlined that very important that this initiative should be seen as coming from the American side. Kennedy would make certain the networks gave Andropov airtime and that they rigged the arrangements to look like honest journalism. Very honest journalism and very honest politicians. Kennedy's motives, you might ask. Let me read exactly what was written in the memorandum. Kennedy is very troubled by the current state of Soviet-American relations, the memorandum stated, but that high-minded concern represented only one of Kennedy's motives. There was one more reason that Tooney mentioned. The senator wants to run for president in 1988. Very, very nice. Kennedy proved eager to deal with Andropov, the leader of the Soviet Union, the former director of KGB, and a principal mover in both the crushing the 1956 Hungarian Revolution and the suppression of 1968 Prague Spring, at least in part to advance his own political prospects. The secret correspondence with the Soviet spy service was first reported by the London Times in the article headlined "Teddy, the KGB and Top Secret File." If you don't believe British news organizations, please listen to what the spokesman of the Kennedy family, Paul Donovan, said in 1992. "Yes," said the spokesman, "Senator Kennedy attempted to contact Andropov several times, but nothing came out of that, so why to discuss it?" I personally have a question. Why did the senator attempt to reach KGB and the head of the Politburo? Why wasn't the State Department involved? In 2009, Forbes magazine asked the same questions and then put the following statement. Why discuss it? No reason, except the Democratic Party of the United States offered KGB USSR a tit-for-tat deal. We will stop deployment of the weapon systems that are supposed to be the defense of the Western Europe, and you will help us to defeat Reagan and help to elect Edward Kennedy to the White House. All sides will be happy, right? Soviet Union will get a weakened Europe, and Kennedy will fulfill his presidential ambitions. Of course, America and Europe, countries and population of those countries will lose, but such small, unimportant things were not of interest to Paul Donovan, Kennedy, Tooney, or alike. Edward Kennedy was a real patriot of his motherland. In order to put a fat dot to the end of this story, I have to tell you that one of the fact-checking sites, PuntiFact, wrote that this story about Kennedy and Andropov is fake. And we're supposed to believe that the same progressives that lie on every turn, when they claim that they check facts, are not lying. They are, however, the same useful idiots who, together with so many others, repeated the mantras that the KGB prepared for them. America is an aggressor, life in the USSR is better, Soviet citizens have free and best medicine in the world, free education, free everything, housing, much better and freer life. We Americans are bad guys, they are the good guys, socialism is great, capitalism is terrible. So many stupid, ignorant and impressionable people. Easily impressionable people. KGB measured well Western intellectuals and elites. However, they were totally unable to understand what is considered middle class in America. Based on the knowledge of their own countries, Soviet spies considered American workers, craftsmen, owners of small businesses to be a silent mob, a herd that chews laws and goes where it will be led by the shepherds, the elites. Soviet agents simply were not prepared to understand that America is truly a unique country. Not KGB, not GRU, not Politburo were able to comprehend this country and its philosophy of individualism, and how it is possible that each can care for his or her own interest, but as a result everyone lives better lives. In Europe, and especially in the Soviet Union, they always thought that if one wins, then somebody else will lose. They know only zero-sum game, as they call it, an idea that all can win and no one lose was and still is actually completely foreign and even laughable for them. When Nikita Khrushchev came to the US and saw near UCLA here in Los Angeles thousands of cars parked on huge lots, he asked, "Is this what's called the car cemetery?" And when he was told that those cars belong, to the students, he began to yell that he will not tolerate lies. Even the most informed of them understood nothing about life here and the national character of this country. Even Vladimir Bukovsky, our great contemporary, smart, thinking, not easily swayed, wrote in his book that he didn't like America from the first visit. Since the day he came to his first lecture and saw, as he put it, hundreds of young Americans with burning eyes, he understood, he wrote, that he will not be able to explain anything to them. He probably anticipated, to see empty eyes, heads down, wise people knowing that nothing good will happen to them, convinced that they have already lost before they even started. Bukovsky also wrote in his book that he didn't think that America will be able to create its own culture. God knows what he means by that. Even in 1,000 years, as he put it, because country's population engaged not in culture building. He probably refers to the same culture building that, after 2,000 years of hard work, brought up Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Lenin, Mussolini, Pol Pot, and so on and so on. But instead, Americans were pursuing, as stated in their Declaration of Independence, happiness. And per Bukovsky, nation that believes in an illusion they call American dream will never come to deep understanding of what culture is. If even Bukovsky understood so little about America, what can we anticipate from spies of KGB, Stasi, or GRU? Communists were able to con and trick the intellectuals, media, political and sometimes business elites. In his book, former President Richard Nixon, who together with Kissinger was one of the creators of the detente. And as we know now, the detente was actually created and implanted in our brains by Kremlin. Here's what Nixon wrote when he began analyzing facts of the past. The hope arose that if the United States limited its own arms, other, particularly the Soviets, will follow. But the Soviets did not perform according to theory. Exactly like Soviets didn't understand the real America, the American leadership wasn't able to comprehend the Soviet mentality. Nixon continues. The Soviet Union today is the most powerfully armed expansionist nation the world has ever known, and its arms build-up continues at a pace nearly twice that of the United States. There is no mystery about Soviet intentions. The Kremlin leaders maybe do not want the world war, but they do want the world. And they are rapidly moving into position to get what they want. As you see, KGB achieved its first goal. Western elites were made to believe that Soviets are people exactly like you and me. In the 1980s, writes Nixon, America for the first time in modern history will confront two cold realities. The first of these is that if war were to come, we might lose. The second is that we might be defeated without war. The second prospect is more likely than the first and almost as grim. And he finalizes his thoughts this way. They, Russians, never wanted detente. They wanted to build their military using our resources. And then, trade with the Russians must be used as a weapon, not as a gift. Great that President Nixon finally realized that and told others, but they're not listening. Why, one can ask, but you and I already know why. We already know the answer, because they are useful and untamed idiots. Let's stop here. Next chapter will be even more explosive than this one. Bukowski book will be sold on Amazon and other book-selling sites starting May 2019. My books, Capitalism 101 and Looking for Hugh, you can download from the same Amazon and other sites, or you can buy a soft-cover paper book on the internet. Until final chapter.